Mic. Camera. Action.
How can I help?
I understand you're getting out.
Getting out? Getting out of what? Bed? My head? The closet? Don't flirt with me, Jai. I'm a busy man.
I hear you're getting out of the game. And I would like you to consider an offer.
Look, let me stop you right there so you don't waste any more of your precious breath, young man. This is not a discussion for the two of us. Unlike the salt and pepper, it's not on the table.
This is a big number. Cash.
I am not for sale.
All right. Welcome back to Filmography, a show dedicated to watching every credited film from an actor's complete back catalogue, from past debut through to present day, in chronological order. Each episode, I'm joined by an esteemed guest to watch and discuss the next entry from their focused filmography. I consider how it ranks amidst their career and whether we can trace any typecasting trends or topic traits or theatrical tics. Today, I'm joined by Toff Guy Maff to discuss McConaughey's appearance in Guy Ritchie's The Gentleman from 2019. We watch, you listen, and hopefully watch along too. Evening, Governor. How you doing?
I doff my cap to you.
Lovely.
But evening, I'm glad to be back. I'm excited to be able to do. I think this was the first one that I kind of jumped straight in for.
Yeah, your hand went straight up, definitely.
And I kind of thought everyone's going to scramble for this, and yeah, I was just saying, I've watched this 5 or 6 times before, but rewatching it again, I forgot how much Matthew McConaughey was actually in this. And
that's true. Yeah, me too.
It's not his film as such. I think it's more Charlie Hunnam and Hugh Grant, really, Fletcher and Ray, and that. But he does have a good presence throughout the film. I mean, as I say, it was a lot more, because it's been probably a couple of years since I've watched it last. But it's again, I think when I last watched it was before I started writing Letterboxd reviews and things like that. But I think this is one of them ones where you would go, this is a definite 5 out of 5. And that's, I'm already showing my hands what I think of it. But it's like this one when I'm working, I'm kind of thinking through the film and stuff. And I'm trying to think, is there any bad parts in the film? And it's like, I don't think there really is. I don't think there's any point where there's a lull or anything like that.
Okay.
I mean, there's a lot of things I want to kind of talk and maybe compare to other films and things like that. But yeah, I think this is, when you ask me my rating, you won't be surprised.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, it's very fast-paced, isn't it? It's rat-a-tat. It's that kind of dialogue that Guy Ritchie became famous for. It's like a kind of return to his roots, isn't it, in a way? And I think it was very much advertised in that way. And therefore, it's really interesting for me, because that's where my journey started. I started with Lock, Stock. That was my first ever episode of Back to Filmography. So it is nice to come full circle and be talking about these kind of movies again. I'm not as positive as yourself. I'm not 1 star. You're sort of, as you said, showing your hand a bit. You're 5 star. You're struggling to think of anything that you don't like about it. I'll see if I can posit some things and see how you feel about them. Of course, as you know, I'm not here to try and change your mind, but I think it's a little bit trying to recapture kind of the glory days. And there's something that happens to Ritchie's filmography that I'll talk about as we go, where he kind of loses me at a certain point with this kind of movie. Things like what was his war movie called? The Gulf. It was like the Gulf War, wasn't it? That was I thought that was a strong entry that he did. The Covenant. He did The Covenant, didn't he?
Yeah.
I thought that was a good movie. I absolutely loved Wrath of Man. There's just something about when he sort of starts to play in this sandbox again where I feel I struggle a little bit. And like I say, well, hopefully that will come up or we'll talk about it as we go. Because I want to touch upon your point about McConaughey as well. That fact that, I was really surprised. I sort of thought, oh yeah, I remember McConaughey's in this. And he's kind of like the figure who'll drift in and out of the film. Maybe he'll be in at the start and then he'll be like, in Lock, Stock, you get the kind of the gangster kingpin, don't you? He's got like the pawn shop stuff. And, he's that character. And then in Snatch, you've got Bricktop. Yeah, he's like that kind of character in this, isn't he? But no, you're right. He's really, really central to everything that's going on. And although Charlie Hunnam's Ray probably gets the most screen time, he is the ostensible protagonist, isn't he? Mm-hmm. Like, McConaughey's Mickey is the kind of protagonist of the story that kind of everything centers around. But because he's always sending his guys out, mostly Ray out to do the job, you actually spend a lot of time with those characters, don't you?
Yeah, I think there's a similarity to Tarantino of kind of how he kind of tells his story. I think he does a better job than what Tarantino does.
Interesting.
The opening of the movie and that, kind of watching that, I'm thinking, I remember that, but it doesn't. I know that doesn't happen. What happens?
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
But I like the fact that it is a bit like a Pulp Fiction where the story goes backwards and forwards a bit.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to kind of go back on myself a little bit. There is one point in the film which is a really good scene, but then it kind of backtracks and then it replaces it and goes, "No, that didn't really happen." That's the only bit where it's like, I'm not sure whether that could have, maybe you should have just left that as it is and let that happen as it was. But then that's just point where we get the speech about him, he's a lion in the lion will eat.
Yeah. The king of the jungle can just pose as the king of the jungle. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, it's like, obviously it's already played by this point, but the section that you'll pull out, there's lots of moments from Matthew McConaughey of what he kind of, the lines that he delivers through this film. That, you've got a good plethora of choice there because there's so many classic lines. I mean, this is probably one of the things. If I'm having a bit of a naff day, I go on YouTube and there's that scene there with Vicky Pearson and Dry Eye. But there's the bit in the fish and chip shop with the coach.
Yeah, that's Colin Farrell's character. Yeah,
which I mean,
that's the highlight of the movie for me. Yeah, I agree.
It's that, and there's also the bit with Ray when he's chased down the young lad for the phone. They're the moments which I will, I've got them saved on my YouTube list, so I can always just pull them up and just watch that for 5 minutes. And it just gives you a bit of a perk to do. But I mean, we're here to talk about Matthew McConaughey, but I think the thing is, so many people kind of throw the cap into the arena for this because everyone's kind of, it feels like everyone's giving 100%. And that.
Yeah. Everyone gets the assignment, don't they? And people are. This is a really interesting period for Hugh Grant. He's doing really interesting stuff, and almost every new role he does is a new side to him we've not seen before. And he's great here as this kind of effeminate, like undercover report, almost like a kind of like LA Confidential hush, like PI, like reporter style guy.
He mentions the conversation, doesn't he, at one point? Which
he does, yes.
When he mentions it, there is actually a microphone in the background from the conversation, which...
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, it's very bold of Guy Ritchie to write a line of dialogue where he criticises the conversation for being boring, considering some of the shit that he's made. Well, I think,
King Arthur.
Yes, exactly. Swept away, revolver. This is where there's a little bit of the Guy Ritchie-ness that I start to fall out of favour with a little bit here as well, where I think there's a bit of an overconfidence and a bit of a smugness about some of the work that he does in his later years. And this toes the line for me. It's not quite as bad. Something like the Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare definitely tips over for me. And Matthew Vaughn, who was his early collaborator, I feel like he's gone the same way. Like early Matthew Vaughn stuff is interesting, like Layer Cake and X-Men First Class. But then you get stuff like Argyle, which is awful.
Yeah.
I don't really like The Man from U.N.C.L.E. I know everyone really likes that, but I find that so smug, that movie, that everyone just is so proud of themselves and how cool they think they are. I really struggle with that element of Guy Ritchie stuff.
I think The Man from U.N.C.L.E., it feels stiff. It feels like you don't like Argyle, but Argyle, the bit that Superman, what's his name?
David Corenswet, the new Superman,
the old Superman,
Henry Cavill.
Yeah, and the bits that he plays in Argyle when he's that super spy, and that they feel that's taken from Man from U.N.C.L.E. and it's too straight. Whereas the other bits of Argyle, where it's more the joking, it's more the Sam Rockwell. That's good. I enjoyed that bit a lot more as opposed to this, super spy. I think that's probably Man from U.N.C.L.E. It's a bit too much. I said the two. It would have been better if you'd have had the kind of the part of the straight man and the kind of the opposite of the straight man. I can't think what that's called.
Like the kind of the foil with like the comedy side. Yeah.
I think that would work better. I mean, we see that at the end of the film in this. There is a lot of things in this film which kind of it does feel like Guy Ritchie's kind of go, look at what else I've kind of done, and he kind of shows his hands of himself to a certain degree.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. You made the comparison to Tarantino, and I definitely want to talk about one scene where it's very clear that I think he's trying to do his version of Tarantino, and when he's in the druggy apartment, we'll definitely want to talk about that one. And I'm not totally. There's lots about this film that I've found amusing and I was caught along with. I don't know. There's just certain moments where I'm just like, oh, I'm so over this now. Like, and like you said, there is clever dialogue, and he does write interesting characters, and he's very good at coming up with silly gangster names. But I think I just ran out of patience with this movie, and part of the problem for me was this kind of smugness. This like, look at me, aren't I smart? This like, I'm going to dress Matthew McConaughey's Mickey basically like I dress in real life. Like, that's a bit, but also there's a sense of, I don't know, like, I've lost my train of thought now because I got so quiet with myself and like trying to be. I just sort of seen it, done it before, and I don't know.
Maybe that's the thing. Maybe because he is trying to because before this he'd done Sherlock Holmes, I think, wasn't it?
Considerably before this, I think. Yeah, Sherlock Holmes is early 2000s, isn't it? So the film before this was Aladdin.
Yeah.
And before that was King Arthur, and before that was Man from U.N.C.L.E., and then the Sherlock Holmes. So,
but maybe it is a case of he's trying to just go back to kind of what he knows, and that.
Which is obviously fine, isn't it?
And I mean, I was saying I'd watched a couple of interviews. His writing style is quite interesting, because I mean Matthew McConaughey kind of said in the interview he didn't like it. He didn't like the fact that, and Hugh Grant said the same as well. Hugh Grant had a 40-page set of lines that he had to learn. He came on set, and the way Guy Ritchie is very much like, I don't like that. We're going to do this today. It's like, but I've just spent the last. I mean, Matthew McConaughey said he hated doing that. He hated learning all these lines, and then they just come in and go,
throw it out. Yeah,
I don't want to do that. But it's just, but it does work the way that it does it. It's just infuriating the fact that I spent all this time learning all these lines and learning the character, and then I let you turn up and you just throw it out the window. And that I mean, Charlie Hunnam's done a couple of films with him at this point. I can't see Matthew McConaughey going back to work with him from the way they were talking, which is a shame because I think he comes out really well in this film.
I agree, he's great.
Now, how much that's down to him, how much that's down to Guy Ritchie, I think it's more down to Matthew McConaughey. But yeah, I mean, I don't know Guy Ritchie's background as such, but he's a London kind of lad, isn't he?
Yeah.
But it does feel like he's portraying. He's like he's putting a persona on of what.
Yes, that's
believes,
interesting. Yeah.
And maybe it's more of a persona to kind of for the greater audience that don't understand it all.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, like when you're young and you're raw and you make Lock, Stock and you make Snatch, it's like, it's exciting, isn't it? It's edgy. It's like kind of that first, second album of a band. And you're really
grittier,
into it. Yeah,
it is more real. Whereas this just does feel more toffee, kind of.
Yeah. Which is interesting because I used that intro for you. Like Toff Guy was his brand for a while, and it is what this was originally going to be called.
This and Bush, Bush is the name of the screenplay that Fletcher writes at the end.
That's right. Yeah, but it's just sort of feel like, I've done this, so I'm going to bring that back, and I've seen Attack the Block, so I'm going to put that in there, and like the weird music video bit in the middle, and like kind of, I don't know, it feels a little bit, as well as like trying to stay relevant, but actually it feels like a middle-aged man's version of what is trendy and relevant, and actually is a little bit out of step and a little bit out of touch.
The one thing I will say that Guy Ritchie does really well is he takes. It's like, I mean, I know.
I'm sorry to be critical of something you really like.
No. It works better if we don't agree.
We've been there before, haven't we?
Several times. It's like Bugsy Malone. Now I know who Bugsy Malone is because I've got she's 20 odd now, a daughter who is listens to his music. So, and that. I mean, he's a rapper. He's an artist that way. He's not an actor, but he's brought him in and kind of. He did that with Statham. He brought him in. He was raw. He kind of helped mold him into kind of what he is, and that. So I think he's good at doing that, taking raw talent. Maybe it's harder when it brings in someone like Jeremy Strong and Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah. Because Bugsy Malone is in Operation Fortune as well, isn't he?
Yes, he is. Yeah.
Going back to that, yeah.
And I think plus as well, I suppose it's easier as well when you've got. I mean, Charlie Hunnam's he's done Sons of Anarchy at this point, so
definitely,
he's quite well known.
Yeah,
but the other ones are kind of easier to mold him to do what he wants them to do. Whereas maybe, like from the interview, it felt like Matthew McConaughey was pushing back a fair bit, and so was Hugh Grant on certain things. I mean, Hugh Grant's come back because he was in Operation Fortune, wasn't he, as well?
He was, yeah, you're right.
He was, again, I mean, one thing he was saying, Hugh Grant, like, he loves to play bad guys. He says it was nice to do the posh, toffee kind of thing.
Yeah, rom-commy, floppy fringe, yeah.
He says he just loves playing bad guys. He says he feels like he gets more out of it. He can put more into it. And he can take it to levels which, because you're playing a bad guy, there isn't really a ceiling. You can just keep pushing and pushing and pushing.
Yeah.
And I think he's found his calling. I mean, have you seen Heretic?
I haven't actually, no. I
mean, there's only really 3 actors in Heretic, and he's creepy without doing anything that's really creepy. And he just, you feel unsettled watching him, and you just do. He's not doing anything wrong as such, but you just do not trust him throughout the film, and that, for good reason, and that. But yeah, I feel that that's the thing about this film. I feel that everyone's able to do their own little thing, whether it's a big part or a small part. You know?
I think that's totally fair. I think everyone's great. I think, in a very small kind of thankless role, Michelle Dockery's really good as well. Yeah, I completely agree. Like, Farrell shines, doesn't he? Grant shines, McConaughey shines. Hunnam is fine. He's really struggled ever since Sons of Anarchy to find the right fit for him. It's been really interesting. He can't shake Jax Teller from Sons, and he can't quite seem to find his groove on the big screen, which is a shame because I think he's a talented guy. So yeah, I agree with that completely. I think my patience wore thin a little bit with, you mentioned like the monologues and the speeches, and I get why if you're an actor and the script lands on your desk and you're like, oh, I can't wait to deliver this. But the way that it is shown in this movie is just lots of people standing around lots of times in rooms giving monologues. So like I say, by the time we got to like the 10th one of those, I was like, oh, okay, like he's going to talk for 5 minutes and then we'll kind of have no repercussions. It won't really go anywhere. And that I started to struggle with that the longer the film went on. And as much as I like Hugh Grant in this, I don't really like the framing device of the discussion that he's having with Ray. Because it just feels like the stuff you would criticize in any other movie of being like pure exposition. He's for the first 10 minutes, he's telling Ray stuff that he already knows.
But that's Hugh Grant's like the unreliable narrative. He believes he knows what's everything that's going on.
I hear you, but so is Ray to an extent as well.
Yeah, but then Ray points out, he says to him, he says, Fletcher, you think you're good, but he says, I'm just better. And you see the point when he's kind of hiding in the bushes in the ghillie suit. And literally, like, and that's breath away from you, raising the same thing. They've been keeping tabs. They've kind of set him all up, and that so they know exactly what's going to go on. It's just the only thing they didn't kind of put into place with the Aslan bit.
Yeah.
That,
yeah.
But I think. The thing with Fletcher through the film, he's kind of there to be able to kind of put all the pieces together that he believes it's going on. And as we're sat watching it, we're thinking, all right, yeah, we can see where this is going on. You're not aware of the fact that, but Ray and Nicky Pearson know all this already. They already kind of planned for all this, I mean? I'm sure the fact that he's raised, what was it, did they have like 12 units across all of England,
something like that, where they're hiding the weed, and growing the weed,
This empire, he it's not like he's a mug, and he's hired the right people, and he's got to be several steps ahead of everybody.
That's true. Yeah. Hey, it's just a very personal thing. I don't know. I just felt like I was spending time with that could have been spent better elsewhere. And obviously, with Tarantino, I think we can talk about Edgar Wright as well as being another contemporary. I think they're people that write these scenes so that it gives the story forward momentum. Whereas I think here, these scenes felt like it was kind of treading water and going over stuff which he wanted the audience to know. But it bothers me when the two characters in the scene already know this information and it's really clear it's just for us. I just think there's better ways to provide that information, which is a shame because the way that Hugh Grant delivers his lines and his performance and the power dynamics between him and Ray in those conversations are really interesting. But as soon as I cottoned on to the fact that it was just pure exposition, it just sort of lost me each time it kept coming back to those scenes, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's Edgar Wright as well, because like he did Shaun of the Dead, didn't he?
And Hot Fuzz, and then he's gone on to like Baby Driver and Scott Pilgrim. Yeah.
Again, it's very much kind of dialogue driven.
Yeah,
I suppose you've got the right amount of action in there to kind of balance it. Whereas this has action, but it is a bit more kind of I mean, the bit with the toddlers. I mean, it's good and it's amusing and you enjoy that, but I think if you have that throughout the entire film, it wouldn't feel quite real. I know this is like real life but on steroids, so they do heighten it up. Yeah. But it's like, I mean, you say you want to talk about the bit in the flat. You can see that going that way to a certain degree. So it still has a bit of reality to it. So it's got the action there, but I feel that he doesn't want to overdo it. He doesn't want it to be Wrath of Man.
No.
To be fair, Lock, Stock is a kind of a bit of that, isn't it?
And Snatch as well. Neither of those are action movies. They're definitely dramas, aren't they?
Yeah. So I think he's trying to balance it out, and maybe he was trying to rekindle those old ones, but also bring something new in, and it's just testing the water.
Which I think he definitely succeeds in. Listen, I've been kind of a bit overly critical in order maybe to balance out the gushing phrase we had at the start. Like, he definitely succeeds in what he sets out to do, 100%. It's just, I think, on this occasion, it just isn't quite for me, and that's a very personal thing. That's very subjective. I think if somebody say to me, this is what Guy Ritchie's intention was, do you think he achieved it? Yes, 100%. Do I think he's got well-written dialogue? Yeah, of course I do. Do I think everyone in it is good? Yeah, I do. Does it feel satisfying by the end? That's where I'm not sure. I'm not sure for me it does. Clearly it works for you, and I'm really glad about that, because if it's a film you can go back to as a whole, and a film that has scenes that you can go back to watch, as pick-me-ups and as fun scenes, that's brilliant. That's what we all want in life, isn't it? It's just, for me, it doesn't. It's good bits that don't all quite come together.
Yeah, you think you were trying to be too smart for his own good to a certain degree with it.
Well, he definitely did that with Revolver, so it's nowhere near the that level of trying too hard. I don't know. I don't know. It's one of those weird things. When you want to like something, and I can't quite put my finger on why I don't like it more, because I do really like Lockstock. I do really like Snatch. I do really like Wrath of Man. There's lots of stuff I do really like. And so I should really like this, and I don't know why I don't.
Yeah.
Like, I like it enough, but I just don't really like it.
It's not one of those that you'll go back to, Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
That's fine. I mean, listen, we all have certain films that they're just kind of, they hit at the right moment for you. Yeah. I mean, one of my favourite films is The Crow. And that I love to go back and rewatch that. It's not a brilliant film, and that, but and it's probably been done better elsewhere. But I just love the aesthetics of it. I just love the fact, I mean, one Halloween when I wasn't quite as large, I dressed up and I borrowed a wig and I did all, I went out and bought a big long black leather coat, which I think I wore just for that one night. and I thought I looked the dog's bollocks. And I've seen pictures.
I imagine you did. I want to see a photo of that.
I've looked back at the pictures and no, I didn't look. And that I think probably at the start it didn't look too bad, but as the paint kind of really came down through the night. But yeah, you have them guilty pleasures, and this is probably one of my guilty pleasures. But and maybe I am being a bit biased.
As you should be.
I struggle to find fault with the film, and that. But again, I think maybe that's partly because it gives you. It's one of them films that it makes me feel kind of good inside. It's enjoy. It's like, Deadpool Wolverine. It's not the best film
coming soon to this podcast.
Yeah, not the best film in the world, but again, it just makes you feel good when you watch it. You have certain films like that when you watch them, you just end up waxing really lyrical about it, and you realise that it's not a great film, but there's just something about it that just kind of, it was just that, because this came out just before lockdown.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah,
I think we had a. I read somewhere that we had about. It came out in about 4 or 5 weeks of release, and then lockdown hit, and then that way, and it still made a ton of money.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's maybe just because that it came out at that point, and I think it went straight onto Netflix, and I ended up watching it several times because there was nothing else to really do at the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I was fortunate I could still work because of my job, but it was a case of maybe that's one of the reasons why, because I watched it so many times, because there wasn't really much else to watch at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. It's got a swagger and it's got a charm, and if you are charmed by it, I can see why you would feel that way. And there are lots of people out there that feel that way. It's got lots and lots of positive reviews, critical, Letterboxd. There are lots of people that feel the same way you do about it, and rightly so, because I think if that's what you're looking for, it does capture that really well, doesn't it? It does have a narrative that draws you to different places and draws you in different directions, and has some twists and some reveals. It has kind of characters who are duplicitous, and if not got 3 or 4 layers to them, and you don't know who's on whose side. And it does have a big twist, as you alluded to at the start. And let's go full spoilers here. The movie starts with what you believe to be McConaughey's Mickey Pearson getting shot in his pub, only for that to be revealed about 2/3 of the way through the movie that he wasn't shot, but Ray protects him and shoots the wannabe assassin. So it does have these kind of moments where it's drawing into the story. It's doing classic storytelling stuff that I can see why people would be drawn to and would really like it. And I thought it was really interesting because it's, again, spoilers for Between Two Fans. Not that movie really needs to be spoiled, but it's the second movie in a row where the fake death of McConaughey is the inciting incident of the movie. Because that's how Between Two Fans starts as well, is that he accidentally, quote unquote, dies at the start of that movie. So really interesting that people keep killing him off in this era of his career.
Well, it was kind of the end of the reconnaissance at this. Well, we'd passed it at that point, haven't we?
Yeah, he's become Drew Barrymore and Scream now.
Yeah, maybe so. It's weird because I kind of reading that some people do like him and some people just can't stand Matthew McConaughey. And that he seems to be. I think he oozes charisma. I think he's just got presence. But when you're reading that, some people are like, oh no, it's just to up himself. If anything, I don't think he is. I think he's kind of he's so laid back, and that. And I think I bet he's a joy to work with because I think he would be very straight and kind of tell you how it is and how he kind of wants to do things.
Yeah,
and that
takes his craft very seriously.
Yeah, and he'll actually try. Cuba on the Two Strings, not a kind of film you would expect him to do. And then Sing. I mean, it's funny I've watched Sing and Sing 2 many times because we're kids. And when I first watched it, I didn't realise it was Matthew McConaughey at first.
Oh, really? Okay.
And then it went until you kind of look through the list and you're like, oh, right, oh, yeah. I like the fact that Statham's great, and we love Statham for being Statham because we know exactly what we're going to get with him.
Mm-hmm.
But I think with Matthew McConaughey, what I like is the fact that you don't always know what you're going to get.
Yeah.
You're going to get that slow southern drawl kind of voice and that, he's a bit kind of a Sean Connery. He's very, very changes his voice. And that's what it is. And he's happy to kind of, that makes part of him. I think that's why I'm drawn to him because, I just love the way when he does give you that dialogue and he does talk to you, the fact that, I'm gushing a bit now. He's like that smooth cream, and it's lovely to listen to. It's one of those things where, if I were to be read a bedtime story in the night time, I'd be quite happy to be in because there's just something in his cadence and how he kind of talks and speaks. I'm just bought into. I think throughout this film, when you just, read them certain bits of dialogue, and like you're just like, I'm just bought into it and I love it. Yeah.
No, I agree. I can point you in the way of his. Every week he brings out something on YouTube that he reads to you, so I can point you in that direction. So you can have a little Friday night listen to that every Friday.
Keep that secret from everybody.
It's a little bit toned down here, isn't it? I think his accent, which is interesting, not massively, but he does tone it down a little bit because he's meant to be kind of a bit more cosmopolitan. He's been in England since he came here to go to university, so for 25, 30 years, depending on how old he's meant to be in this movie. So he does tone it down a touch, doesn't he?
Yeah. I think talking with with the posh people, the tops, I think he's trying to learn their kind of lingo. So there is something a bit different in kind of how he speaks. But it's same as when he speaks to like Dry Eye. He speaks complete, and there's a bit more fierce and fire in his.
Yes.
At first it's amusing. I've written down. It's like a good chunk of this film could have been completely missed out if he'd have just shaken someone's hand. And it's amazing how one thing happens and the ball starts rolling, and then you get all these other different things that get knocked out. And it seems like talking with, when Dry gets that meeting and kind of, he's just not really paying any attention because he's doing it out of honour for his wife, but he's just not interested. And he knows full well that whatever he's going to offer him, which is quite insulting anyway, he doesn't want to do business with him.
Yeah.
And that. But when he flicks that switch, you just see that kind of that power kind of come out of him.
Yeah,
and
the king of the jungle.
Yeah. Which, as I say, that's that. I think that's one of the best things that he probably does in this film, where he really kind of you kind of feeling for Dry Eye crawling on the floor, thinking, "Oh my mate, you're so screwed," and then all of a sudden he kind of goes, "Oh no, that didn't happen." Which, as I say, maybe I wish that had happened and just left it like that, but for whatever reason, he decided to pull that back and just go back to this soft-spoken one again.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Because they talk at times about this idea of him being a gentleman gangster, don't they? And like gentrification, they bring up a couple of times in the movie. And there's this sense of like, is he letting his hold slip? Because we see, I really like the section where we see him as a younger man, like coming up, and they always crop it so you can't see the head, because obviously it's not McConaughey, it's whoever's playing young McConaughey. I think that was a really interesting choice. And he is a badass. Like, he is like machete wielding, murdering. He will do anything to keep rising to the top. So there's that interesting sense of like, has he lost his edge, and what does that mean? And they kind of hint to you that things might go badly for him because of that. But then when you look back and you consider the movie with the opening and closing monologues, the whole King of the Jungle monologues, it's all right there, isn't it? Of this sense of like, there can be no doubt whether you're the king or not. You've got to prove it over and over. If people doubt your position, it causes chaos and all this kind of stuff. So it kind of tells you at the start that you talk about the Hugh Grant's Fletcher being like an unreliable narrator. Like, the movie itself is playing with that sense, isn't it? Because it's ostensibly, it's a little bit meta in terms of how it lays itself out, because it's almost as if Fletcher's relaying his script to you as a viewer as well. But it kind of tells you right at the start, like, don't think you know this guy and don't think you know what's going to happen here, because he is, he is what he's saying is. He is the king of the jungle. He doesn't doubt it, so you shouldn't either. So it's quite interesting that it does have kind of layers to it there by the time you get to the end.
Yeah, I mean, I do feel that a good chunk of this is, I can't remember which film it is with Christopher Walken, but the one when he talks about being the lion. There's a monologue.
Is it in True Romance?
Yes,
him and Dennis Hopper.
Yeah, and it's like, the lion, he just kind of lays there, the cubs and nip his toes and that, and then obviously he just gets up and he just runs them up and he just rips him apart. And I feel that they've kind of taken that and kind of put this into this film to kind of show the fact that this lion is he's just laying there, it's not bothered, because things can go on around him because he don't have to deal with it. But once you kind of step over that line, it's the point when it's like that thing when, I know when I was a kid, you would push it so far with your parents, but as soon as if your dad got stood up, you were in trouble. So, you'd push that line, but at the point when he starts to move, you would get out of the way. And that, because you think, right, yeah. And that's kind of his character in this. Is kind of like, he's wanting to have an easy life. He's wanting to retire from it all. And he's well aware of the fact that people are going to try and take advantage of him. And that, so he's got lots of things set up in there so that, if people do, that he will show the fact that he's still alive. He's, he may, because Dry Eye kind of mentions as well, when there's too much silver on the back of the silverback, it's time to step away. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, but that's not me.
Yeah. Don't mistake that. Yeah. And you see it, don't you? Like you say, even though that scene with him then becomes like an imaginary sequence, but when he does like threaten, is it George?
Yes,
the leader of the gang.
George.
Yeah, that's it. And like when he does threaten Jeremy Strong's character, Matthew, which is really weird, because every time he talks to Jeremy Strong's like potential buyer of his business, he keeps like very like pointedly saying Matthew, which is weird, because it just kept jarring me out, because it's like, Matthew. I'm like, but that's you, Matthew.
That's just me.
That's you. Yeah, exactly. And that's you as well. Yeah, exactly. It kept. But hang on, no, but you're Matthew. Like, I would have just changed. If it was me, I would have just changed that character's name, because you've got Matthew McConaughey keep saying Matthew. But yeah, when he's like, my wife, like, it's really like the fury in him is strong, and you do not mess with this guy. It's totally there under the surface, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, can I just say, right?
Please.
Jeremy Strong, and that every time I see Jeremy Strong on the screen, it might be just me, but obviously our friend Tony Farina, I just see Tony Farina.
How interesting do you? I just see Ross Geller.
Oh yeah. But I think it's just the hat, because like.
Oh yeah, in this movie, yeah.
If he's doing his fireside chat, he's got his hat on.
Yeah,
and I don't know. Just in this film, I just kept thinking Tony's there. If it's not Jeremy Strong, it's Tony.
That's right. Yeah,
but again, I like the fact that Jeremy Strong's character Matthew and Dry Eye, they kind of again think that they're kind of playing out Matthew McConaughey's, and everyone's trying to use each other.
Yes, that's definitely true. Yeah.
It's like playing chess with three people, and two of them think they're ganging up on him.
Well, it's interesting about chess, isn't it? Because we know that's a big pastime, a big hobby, a big interest for Guy Ritchie. Revolver was built around the idea of chess, and this very much is set out. Even Fletcher says at the start of the movie, doesn't he? Like, Ray, do you want to play a game with me? So that is very much set up there, isn't it? This idea of like everybody's trying to outmaneuver each other. So he is leaning back into that sense of something that he enjoys, is these twisted, convoluted plots where everyone thinks they've got the upper hand, but they haven't played the 6 moves ahead that their opponent has. Yeah.
Which, I mean, sometimes that setup is more fun than the actual outcome. And that, I mean, I remember being young, playing with my toys and having like army men. I used to love just setting them all up and setting, even nowadays, if like, playing things like Warhammer and things like that, actually setting the battleground up was sometimes more fun. And you think you've got everything set up, so the fact that whatever someone does, you are then several moves ahead. You are ready to kind of, react best against him because, he's going to make that move. I've already got this move in place. And that is it. Like you say, and I suppose it makes sense the fact that Guy Ritchie is so much into his chess and that. Then this film does feel like it is that. It is a kind of everyone's just playing their piece, and it's just a case of just waiting until he puts him in checkmate. Yeah,
it is. I guess one other issue I have with it is that it's all insanely obvious what's going on. There's nothing clever. Like, there's only one person that knows about the location that's outside of the network, and that's the one location that gets hit. So obviously it's Matthew that's behind it all. So that again, that's sort of like, I think we should, for me, we needed to get to that earlier, because that's not a reveal. Like, obviously it's him. Who else would it be? And I know they're wreaking it out in order to get him to play his hand so they can then play theirs. I understand all of that. And it's the chess analogy of like, you lull them into making the wrong move so you can get checkmate. And I get it. But for me as a viewer, to have to watch 60, 70 minutes of something I already know to then be like, aha, it's Matthew, by the way, viewer. I was like, yeah, of course.
We know it's Matthew.
So just tell me that as a viewer later on and let me know that everyone's playing their parts in order to get to this point. I personally think would have worked better.
Yeah, maybe if it'd been if it had been hit before you saw him showing him around, and then maybe further down the line, you see that point of
that solved it already.
Yeah, quite often. Many of these pods that you do, it's like gold that I listened to this morning, and that within half an hour, you and
Marco
had already made a better movie.
Thanks for saying that.
Just by changing certain things around. And maybe the problem is sometimes the director has such an idea of things and he can't be swayed. I'd be surprised if someone didn't just say, look, maybe we should leave this till it. But if he's got so much in his head of no, it has to be all this way.
Yeah, and at this point in his career as well, he's calling the shots, isn't he? He's telling Guy Ritchie what to do. Yeah.
But but
it's just a shame because there are moments like that could land, but I think unfortunately because we're already ahead of the chess game, they don't. But there are, let's see if there's a couple of scenes you want to talk about. There are a couple of scenes that are absolute standouts, and you mentioned a couple of them as the ones that you'd like to go back to. So the Colin Farrell chip shot one is superb. Do you want to talk us through that a little bit?
it's one of those when you think you know the dialogue. It's like when you think you know this, you can sing along to a song and then the music stops and you're like, I don't know the next word. And but that bit when he's just sat there, he stood at the counter and he's like, they all kind of come in. He's like, there's a smell of wee in here.
Oh, and so good, yeah.
It's just, I think the best thing is that he's just not fazed by these little young gangsters and that. And the fact that he's like, when he's kind of talking to them, he's going, oh, it's the Redskins, it's the Foreskins, oh, it's the Four Tops, and he's giving it all this. And he's like, come on back, hit me. And they goes, fuck you. And he's like, oh. And it's just that disappointment of, and the fact that he just takes them all out, and he doesn't hit him, he just slaps them around.
Yeah.
And that.
He's teaching them a lesson, essentially, because he is coach, right? So
yeah, and he's like, look, you're too slow, get down the gym, and then they all of a sudden one of them realises, like, you're the coach. Oh, shit. And he's that look on the face and that. But I really like his character, the fact that, when the toddlers nick all the weed and that, and he's like, he works out that, some mentions he's on fun and it's all, Mickey Pearson's got all this stuff, but no one would be stupid enough to hit that. And then he's talking to Bugs.
Ernie, I think he is. Isn't
Ernie,
he?
yes.
Yeah.
And it's like, please don't tell me it's because you already know, boss. It's like, but he's like the big brother. It's like, he goes to him and he's like, look, my lad's fucked up.
Yeah.
I owe you. Just tell me what you want to do.
He's got great morals, doesn't he? Which is interesting to say, considering some of the things he goes on to do in the movie. But he has got great morals. He is kind of like the heart of the movie in terms of that he does everything with the right intention in order to protect those that are under his trust, his duty of care.
I'd love to see a film about him before, because I think he's the kind of person who's probably done a lot of shit, and he's managed to kind of get this gym, kind of. All right, the lads are kind of a bit off the rails, but he's got a gym and he's trying to give something back so people don't go down the same road that he did.
Yeah.
Even at the point when they ask him and his lads to go do something, he's like, all right, but my lads are not gangsters. I don't want them to do that. So there's still a limit that he's willing to kind of put them through.
Yeah.
And that. I think he is one of the main characters in the film that really kind of sells the film. And
Agreed.
that because he's not a good guy, but he is a good guy, and he's got morals. That's the thing.
Yeah.
And
he's the bullet-toothed Tony. He's the Big Chris.
Yeah,
so these were the Vinnie Jones characters from the early ones, weren't they? He's that kind of character where he's walking a fine line. He's doing criminal things, but with his own sense of a moral code.
Yeah, and he's got very much a kind of, I've dishonoured you, so I'm going to do something to make sure we kind of pull that back, and then we can kind of, because even it's just, look, we got 3, and then that's it, and then it ends up being 4.
Yeah,
but that was his choice to do the 4th one.
Yeah,
but I do think it is a case of he's very kind of, he's turned over a new leaf, and he's very much, to the same as Matthew McConaughey's character, kind of just going with the flow. He's not trying to be the big, Colin Farrell's not the big shark in this thing. He's just happy to kind of go along with things and just keep his head just above water. And that, but I just that chip shop scene is just so good, and as I say, the reaction of when they realise who he is and they're like, oh shit, yeah, we've messed up here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very much one of those, like, okay, we all know that situation. Like, these 4 lads, difficult. Everyone normally backs off because it's just like, don't make a fuss, because then they'll just go. So I think that's a very relatable situation where, like, but then he totally owns it, which is why that scene's fun, isn't it? The big one I wanted to... Oh, go on, sorry.
But I think the thing is, because it's very rare you get people who are going to stand up and kind of say something, and especially when you get a group of lads, whether they're 16 to 20 to whatever they are, because as a group, people kind of back off and they don't want to say anything.
Yeah.
Because he knows he's dealt with people a lot worse than them.
Oh yeah.
And that, and like he says, you fight, you punch. He says it's all up here. It's in the grey. You fight with your brains, lads.
Mm-hmm.
You're too slow. He's able to do that, so he's not scared of them sort of things because they're nothing to him, and that he's dealt with scarier things. And I think that he's not phased, and I think that's what really works well in that scene itself.
Yeah, definitely. It feels like a movie from a scene from a Stath movie, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say the scene I want to talk about, because then we can talk about the other one that you really like with Ray and the gang out on the street in the garage as well. But just preceding that is the scene I wanted to talk about when he goes to the apartment that he doesn't want to go to. He's been tasked by Mickey to go there to rescue one of the, Mickey has all these lords that he works with in order to grow his weed and to hide it and to sell it. So he's kind of hiding it within aristocracy, isn't he? Which is a really interesting idea. So his daughter's gone missing. So Charlie Hunnam's Ray is sent on a mission to go and get her from this kind of tower block. And this apartment scene, I think Ritchie thinks is going to be his Inglourious Bastards basement bar scene.
Yeah.
Where it's one, something's going on over here and there's an interesting character there that you didn't expect to do something, and then this is going on. And it's fine. Don't get me wrong. It's an interesting scene. And I think Charlie Hunnam really owns the space physically and verbally. I think he's excellent in that scene. It just feels like a reach in the middle of the movie that doesn't quite fit for me. I don't know how you feel about that scene.
Interesting, because the scene it reminded me of is in Lock, Stock, the bit when they there's a scene similar to this.
Yeah.
They go into one of the apartments and it's all just kicks off a little bit, but then all of a sudden there's the passed out person who just is laid under all the clothes.
Oh yeah. When Dog and those guys all break into the weed cellars and there. Yeah.
And gets up with a bread and just starts, and it's oh gosh. I kind of felt he was trying to mirror that, but not quite as escalated.
Mm-hmm.
And that. But again, in that scene, when Ray kind of decides to, because is it Laura? I think we go to Laura.
Yeah, I think you're right.
You're going to come back with us, and she's like, "Yeah, I've had enough here now." And the other lad's like, well, no, we want you to stay. And it's like, no, I'm going to go. When he leaves the other hired help there, he's a big guy. You think he can just handle, the young lads. And that, unbeknown that one of them happens to have, a Russian father.
Mm-hmm.
And that, but it should be a simple scene. Nothing else should really happen. And that the fact that, they kind of all kick off a little bit. And I don't know. It feels like it's a big setup, and then that guy gets knocked over the balcony very quickly.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of all dealt with, and then you then moves on to the scene. So you don't have time to really process what's happened.
Mm-hmm.
You know that the guy's fallen, but then all of a sudden you have the anarchy of the kids just filming it and scattering.
Mm-hmm.
And that, so maybe it needed a moment just to kind of sink in what's just actually happened. Maybe a point where, whoever it was kind of went and, all three of them just looked over the balcony, maybe if they kind of had that of, oh shit,
mm-hmm.
and that. But because it
you needed a comedy punchline moment and you don't really get it.
Maybe so, because you get that in Lock, Stock. There's a bit of, where the fuck did she come from? And
you do, you're right.
It doesn't have that. It kind of jumps onto the next scene, and because the next scene then kind of elevates so quickly to, Ray's chases after that young lad and finally kind of traps him down to where there's a load of other lads. It's like, all right, you all proper roadmen, proper gangsters.
Yeah.
I come in peace. I brought a full bag, and that, and he just wants to kind of de-escalate it.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing full well he can take all these out quite simple.
Yeah.
And that, he's playing them moves because he knows that he's got an ace up his sleeve or in his coat, I guess. And that, but maybe because that kind of kicked off so quickly, you don't have time to kind of process what's just happened upstairs in the, in the flat, would it have worked, as I say, maybe better if they kind of looked over the balcony and see what happened? Or maybe Laura didn't want to go, so they had to kind of pick up and take her out, and, there was a bit of a scuffle that way.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think because this is problem when talking with you, you kind of start picking things out and start thinking, oh, shit, yeah, maybe they could have... No, but that's good. It's good to be able to find certain faults, but I think
the scene's fine in itself. Don't get me wrong; it's fine in itself. I guess it's
just not time to breathe.
Yeah. I think it's a really great point you brought up there. I think it did need that little beat, and then I think because the scene after it is a proper highlight of the movie, and I'm not sure it might come quite close following the coach introduction scene that we've discussed as well. So it might just be that it's kind of bookended pretty closely by two standout scenes from the movie. I just felt like it really wanted to be like, the center point of the movie. And that's what that basement bar scene is in Inglourious, which is why it was in my mind. Because it's, we have that beautiful scene at the opening with the, I am the Jew hunter and all that stuff at the start of Inglourious. And that type of scene goes away for the whole movie. And then we get this next one in the basement bar and you're like, oh, fuck, it's even more tense and more brilliant than the first one. And I think he kind of wanted this to have that impact in the middle of the movie, but because everything else around it is so, as you said, like fast paced and hijinks, it just doesn't quite fit for me.
I think the problem is if you've got a scene that's a 10, and a scene that's a 10, and a scene that's a 10, they all kind of end up dropping because you need a bit of peaks and lows to it, don't you? You need a point where you do have that breather in between, and because I think the bit just before was the coach scene, and that it's good to have something. I think the idea was to go into the apartment and kind of have a bit of a lower point, but because it elevates so quickly straight after you, like I say, you don't have time to kind of process what's happened.
I think what you said is a great point, because you think of the scene later when Fletcher goes off to the toilet at Ray's house, and then when he comes out the toilet and the two goons are there again carrying out the dead body. Like that's that moment. I think that's the payoff to this scene. It just comes an hour later. Like we needed that moment in this scene, didn't we?
We have it before, because the bit when he kind of go out and you see the barbecue and he's like, do you want? He asks for a steak. And he goes to the freezer and he goes,
he's in there. Yeah.
The head of Aslan's in there, and it's like, because he says, oh, I've only got Wagyu. He says, oh, I've never had Wagyu. Well, it'll be fucking wasted on you then, won't it?
Yeah. But, your point of them all looking over the balcony, I think that would have worked really well. Like perhaps the three druggy guys first look over, and then the kind of the bodyguard guy looks over. Great, a little comedy moment at the very end.
Or maybe even...
We just needed something,
Just rejig that scene, because the bit when they kind of pull up and they all go upstairs, you have the scene with the young lads talking to the guy by the car.
Driver,
Maybe if you'd have had the guy go over, then do that scene, because they kind of go back to it, but have that scene and just play it out a little bit longer, and then all of a sudden a body falls, and that, then, because, there isn't that kind of pause in between. You're jumping from one to another.
Yeah. A scene I'm not a fan of is right at the end of the movie when Dry Eye goes to see, what's Michelle Dockery character's name? What's Mickey's wife? Yeah, I'm not a fan of where this scene goes. I think to begin with, it's interesting because we have to set up with the paperweight gun, and it's like that's not going to fire, and then of course it does fire, and she takes two guys out. I don't know why we have to lean into the rape cliche. That doesn't seem like it was necessarily all needed for that character or anything like that. I think that really is a poorly judged moment.
Yeah, and the only thing I would it felt as if Dry Eye panicked and he didn't know really what to do. And that, so the thing
but
is,
why he has to go to that, I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's a case of he thought, well, this isn't going to go well, so maybe to show his dominance, because he must be aware of the fact that Mickey's on his way, and that. So it's that case of because she was on phone to him, wasn't she? and that. So he's probably well aware of the fact that, you know, he's only got a small amount of time, but it doesn't make sense for him to make that decision, and that, you know, which was not a good decision for him.
Yeah, I think it's just a real shame considering she's the only kind of notable woman in the cast and character in the movie, and she has had some good agency. She clearly is the kind of Lady Macbeth behind the power of Mickey, and she runs her own business, and to then snatch that away from her, I thought was a poor choice.
Yeah, I feel it would have been best if maybe they've had a bit of a scuffle, and maybe if he'd have knocked it down and kind of, you know,
and then he legs it, and then him and Mickey have a face off. Yeah.
Or even he's just sitting and he's kind of still towering over, and then Mickey walks in it. And
anything like that. I agree. Yeah,
but still give her that urgency of the fact that she stood her own, because, you know, if anything, I mean, she says to Mickey at one point at the start when he's on about selling it, she's like, "That's fine, but you're not fucking staying around here."
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You feel that, to be fair, he may make a lot of money, but she feels like she's the one who wears the trousers.
Definitely, yeah.
Throughout the film, it's like, you know, a few times like, "Have we got time?" And she's like, no. It's not until kind of spoilers for the end, it's like, "Have we got time?" And she shuts the door. He finally gets his bit of time. But yeah, I feel the fact that the build her up and that kind of drops her down, unfortunately, in that one scene.
Yeah.
And that, which is it didn't need to be there. You're right. That is a scene that they could have just handled better. I'm not quite sure of the choice there.
Yeah, I think everything you posited would have been a better choice, to be perfectly honest. And then we're kind of, that's it. We're kind of in the movie, aren't we? We get the reveal that Mickey's going to keep the business, that Jeremy Strong's going to have to cut off a pound of flesh. Ross Geller, Tony Freeman's going to have to cut off a pound of his flesh. And we're moving, and we're out, aren't we? And then we do get this weird pseudo sequel series, which is set in the world but isn't the same. But I watched one episode and I was like, this isn't for me. I haven't gone to watch any more. I don't know about you, whether you've watched on, or whether I'm missing out, or
I think I watched the first couple when it first, because I think Guy Ritchie does the first couple of episodes.
He does.
Someone else takes over. And I think I may have watched the first two and thought, it's fine, but it's the same, but it's not.
Yeah,
and then
it's weird.
I think I watched the third and I never went back. So
okay, that's quite telling in itself.
Yeah, I think it's one of those where I think. I don't know. It just didn't fit. It just didn't. It was in the world, but it just didn't feel like it fitted the world, and that's so. I don't know.
Yeah, it's and what it's done is it's made it hard to find this movie. Like you can't.
Yeah, because this was on Netflix for a long time, and then the series went on Netflix, and then this just disappeared.
They kicked it off. I guess they want you to watch the series instead of this, but it's not available on any other streaming site. You have to buy it or rent it in order to see it. Yeah, it's a strange situation. I'm not sure what's happened there. And I think it's a shame because, you know, I've nitpicked this a little bit, but it is enjoyable in parts. And you really like it. And I'm really pleased that you do. But both of us dropped out of the series pretty early on.
Yeah, which, again, I mean, maybe if Guy Ritchie had a bit more involvement with it, I may have stuck with it a bit longer. But the first episode felt similar to this, kind of get you in there, but then after that it just it went off on its own, and I just don't feel that it kind of portrayed what I wanted. If I'm going to watch it, I'd just go back and watch the film.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? Yeah.
There is another scene.
Go on, please.
Which is a very short scene, but Big Dave, when they kind of he comes out of a thing, and his driver stood with him, and Toddler's kind of like, "You come in with us, mate." And he's like, "Oh, he knows karate." He says, "Yeah, I'm only a blue belt." And what they do with Big Dave does kind of make you wince a little bit with the pig.
It's very kind of, there's a Black Mirror episode that does this, isn't there? And there's like, so obviously referencing real life events.
I think that's
in
kind
power
of
having fun with a pig. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that, you know, again, that bit when Ray is watching it. It's like, yeah, once you've seen it, you can't unsee that. And that, but yeah, I mean, again, it's one of them comedy moments. Just to kind of, Big Dave's not really a big thing in it as such. He's a catalyst to a certain thing of kind of setting this off with obviously Fletcher. But again, I felt that they've tried to tie that up very quickly at the end and just kind of do something a bit outlandish.
That's true. What is very Guy Ritchie actually is the ultimate fate of Mickey, isn't it? That when he is in his car and his car has been hijacked by the Russians because they want to get revenge for Aslan, for that to kind of come to an end in a very kind of chaotic way, I think is the only way I can put it. Like the toddlers feel like they're doing the right thing, trying to get rid of Mickey because he keeps asking Coach to do stuff, but they actually end up saving Mickey and killing the Russians. That feels very kind of Guy Ritchie. That feels like that scene in Snatch where you've got Billy-Tooth Tony driving and the Russian guy driving and the pawn shop guys driving, and then we have all these kind of three-way car crash and nobody gets what they really want, but everyone kind of gets something out of it. That feels like a very Guy Ritchie moment.
Very true, yeah.
There wasn't much more to say. You're right. What I wanted to ask you, though, I had a key question, was the C-bomb. I'm not afraid to say the word, but I know people don't like to hear it, so I won't hear just in case. You know, this is a podcast where we swear, but I know that's the one that really upsets people. You cannot watch this movie if the C-bomb upsets you, because it is in it a lot. I took the effort to count them, just so I could ask you if you have any idea how many times you think various characters across the whole movie. I reckon every major character says it at least once. How many times "See you next Tuesday" is said in The Gentleman?
Wow. Now, there was a thing on another film that I think the most F words in a film were like 500 and something.
Yeah, it's nowhere near that. I will give you that.
But I reckon we're definitely in the hundreds. I reckon I'll do a ballpark. I'll go 150, and even that.
For all swear words or just for
just the C word?
Oh wow, okay, all right. Nowhere near as many as you think it is then.
Oh right, okay. Because there's a point when it was nearly every other word.
There is, there's one scene where it's that's true, and it's Ray doing that. It's Charlie Hunnam's character. All right, so I counted 23.
Oh right, okay.
And a half, because one gets cut off when he's in the chase. In the foot chase, just before they do a cut, as he's like, "Stop, cut," and then it cuts, which I thought was quite good fun as well. Yeah, I counted 23. Maybe I missed 100. I'm not sure, but there is. 23 is probably pretty strong for most other movies that I've seen as well.
Okay, right. There is approximately 100 uses of the word "fuck."
That makes sense to me. Yeah.
There is some use. It just says some uses of the "See you next Tuesday" and 40 shits. So all right, so it doesn't have an actual number for the "See you next Tuesday." But
it does now. I'm going to go and change that trivia. Yeah, absolutely. But so you were right in terms of your general catchment of the swearing, but again, that I don't know whether that's clever or funny or stupid or what, I don't know, but it clearly is intentional that it's trying to push some buttons, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's sometimes that's not one of the words that I particularly kind of I use myself. I try to avoid. I mean, I do swear a bit at times, but it is one of the words that I probably avoid, and that I know some people don't particularly like it. Yeah. That if I was to use it, it is only like "See you next Tuesday." Yeah. That, which I think is a better way of saying it anyway. But there are moments in the film when it is used and it's emphasised, and it does kind of drive through what they're trying to say to a certain degree, and that's I think it's used well. It's just it comes down to how much you particularly like that word.
It certainly does.
You can't watch it without if you do not like this work.
No, the warning is here. If you haven't watched it and we haven't ruined it all for you and you're thinking about it, yeah, be prepared. You said you might have had some interesting trivia for us.
Yeah, the barbecue. Did you like the barbecue?
I mean, I've never had Wagyu either, so...
but the actual barbecue itself...
If Ray wants to cook me that on his lovely-looking barbecue, why not? Yeah, tell me about the barbecue.
That was actually designed by Guy Ritchie himself. He got a designer to kind of sit down with him, and so they made that special for the film. And that was this idea of having the barbecue with inside the kind of the seating table and that.
Yeah.
The Ritchie Brewery is Guy Ritchie's brewery.
Yeah.
That's the pub that's in there as well. And
what was their beer called? Lord. Did you get that down? Lord or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, I thought I'd written it down.
English Law Ale. Does that sound right?
Yeah. So yeah, there's obviously his. I'm surprised I didn't have McConaughey's whiskey in there. I didn't see that anywhere. But
yeah.
And I thought that would have been maybe his. Even when he were like just sat at the table, if they just had the bottle on there, that would have been.
Mm-hmm.
But, also the title of the film script that Fletcher's trying to sell at the end, it's called Bush. That was one of the titles for the actual film itself. And yeah, we see The Man from U.N.C.L.E. in the background, which is a Guy Ritchie film there as well.
Yeah, that's right. When he's pitching it, and that's Guy Ritchie playing the executive, isn't it? I think.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
So a lot of little kind of trivia kind of tie-ins at the end of it.
Yeah, it does get a bit meta, doesn't it, towards the end?
Yeah, which I think that's the bit where kind of Guy Ritchie is kind of. It is a case of look how clever I am, and that I'm going to kind of tie it all up because this what Fletcher's plan didn't work out. Then he's kind of let's turn it into a script and look, this is where I got the film from, kind of thing.
Yeah, it's also something Tarantino does, isn't it? So let's finish where we started. That things like Kill Bill are movies that exist in the world of his other movies, right? So you've got like Reservoir Dogs, Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown. They are all in the Tarantino verse, but then within the Tarantino verse, Jackie Brown could go to the movies and she would go and see Kill Bill. She would go and see Inglourious Basterds. She would go and he
makes himself meta.
So I think Richard's playing with that idea again here as well, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean Tarantino's one of those. I like most of his films because I mean, kind of it's been discussed a little bit on Discord over the last week about Dusk Till Dawn. But I think then when you kind of go back and watch it, some of them just don't hit quite the same. I think one of my favourites that he did is True Romance. I think that's one of his better films.
Yeah. Just written though, of course. Tony Scott directed that, but yeah.
Yeah, but I think that's kind of one of the reasons why it's good because it doesn't feel like he's got his DNA all over it. Mm-hmm. And that, it feels like it's a bit more. It has time to breathe, which again, it's like we're saying this film to us. There's points when this film needed to breathe, and it just didn't have that.
Yeah,
but yeah, similarities to him.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And I think I remember when Guy Ritchie first came out, people were like, "Oh, he's the British Tarantino." I remember that being spoken about a lot. Yeah, for sure. Well, I'm glad I haven't totally ruined your opinion of it, because that would never be my intention. I want to celebrate your love for this movie for sure. Yeah, shall we look at a couple of letterbox?
Yeah.
I'll start negative and I'll build up to positive, shall I? Just so we that follows the arc of our episode, I hope. Yeah, absolutely. So Stringer Bell says, extremely underwhelming, minus a couple of scenes. The music video fight scene was solid, and any scene with Colin Farrell was awesome. The actors were all having a blast. It's a shame the audience isn't rewarded. I don't really like Cullum at all as an actor, but McConaughey and Grant were pretty good, as expected. The energy here is the only strong point. Held back by messy writing, problematic perspectives, and a disappointingly chaotic, edgy narrative. The script was weak. I think Guy Ritchie's become a bit of a farce and a parody of himself. was never his biggest fan anyway, to be fair, that this is just Ritchie light. It's watchable, but walking a very thin line, and I don't think I can give it passing marks.
Yeah, not a fan.
No, I'm much stronger than I feel. That's nowhere near, like, I'm higher than that.
I mean, I can kind of see the points of what they're making, the fact that, you know, Ritchie's kind of, he's trying to be more clever than what he needs to be with the film.
Mm-hmm.
And that, so, you know, but like, they are right, there are moments in this film which are just, you know, as I say, I go back and rewatch them quite often, you know, but I think that as a film itself, and like, it's not one of them, because it's just short of 2 hours, I think, but it's...
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
It doesn't feel like it's 2 hours long. It feels like it kind of, because there's something always going, you feel like you fly through the film fairly quickly.
Yeah, okay, fair, yeah. You just jumped into my head. Look, go on, sorry, finish your thought. Apologies.
I think maybe, again, you know, I wasn't aware of the fact that Guy Ritchie changed the script as much as what he seems to do from what people are saying. So maybe that's why it just, in the moment when he changes it and he films it, it's like, yeah, that's going to be that, you know, maybe he should have left things alone. And, you know, but what do I know? I'm not a director.
No, and neither am I. So what do either of us know? And it is an interesting point, isn't it? Because you think of something like Anchorman, which I know is a very different movie, but, you know, there are two versions of Anchorman because there was so much unused footage. I wonder if you could do something similar here, where you could have, you know, the Gentleman .5, where it's all the script as it was originally written, to see what that would look like versus the... I think that might be almost more interesting, that these actors put all the effort in to learn the script. Let them give it once through. Now, look, I've had this idea. Now try it this way.
Yeah, the problem is then you then get into the weeds of having like the Snyder cuts and things like that. And
of course,
people making, well, you know, let's say this film gets released, The Gentleman's got released this week, but also The Gentleman 2.0 is released as well. So you take your choice which you want to go. They're not going to do that, so you have to. He's tied his colours to the tree of this, and this is what he believes is the right thing. Now, again, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but I think it works not. The majority of this works for me. There are just little bits now thinking back that aren't quite as good, and that. But I think majority of it does really work really well.
As a whole, when you think of this, like, it's just something you want to watch that makes you feel happy by the end, and that's great.
I think what also possibly is, obviously you can't really tell on Letterboxd quite often, is what nationality someone is. So if someone's British, they will probably kind of understand a lot of the dialogue, a lot of the lingo, things like that, and get it a lot more, whereas the American audience may struggle with certain things.
That's interesting, yeah. I mean, I think it was it, I mean, I know Trainspotting for a fact, but I think it might have even been Lock, Stock as well, that when it was released in the States, it had subtitles on.
Yes, it did, yeah. I think also Snatch did, because of obviously Mickey.
Yeah, and the Traveller characters, yeah. Although I don't know what the politically correct term is, so apologies if that's offended anybody, but I'm not sure what the right term is, because these things change so fast I can't keep up. What I was going to say was the idea of, you know, that reviewer's comparison of him almost kind of being proud of himself makes me think of like Shalaman, somebody like that, who, like, to begin with was original and innovative and doing interesting things, and then became so caught up in trying to be a new but the same version of himself again and again, that until somebody said, just stop doing that and just make movies to make some movies because you want to make them, then he got good again. I feel maybe Ritchie's a little bit similar. Yeah,
similar. I think something kind of, every time you watch a film, you think, well, there's going to be a twist.
Yeah, exactly.
There's going to be a twist. So you sat watching a film and you're thinking, where's the twist going to come?
Yeah.
So you already kind of go into watching a film with something in mind of trying to watch everything else, because something probably doesn't mean what instead of being able to go in and enjoy it, which, yeah, maybe, again, I do really like this, but I would also possibly say, is it as good as Lock, Stock, and or even Snatch? I think Snatch is probably the best of the three. But I think there's certain moments in this that I really, really enjoy. But I think he's trying to rekindle something that he's done before, but because he's also tried other things as well, he's trying to input that, and he's just, for some people, it's just not worked.
Yeah. But let's read about somebody that does work for, shall we?
Yeah.
So Rizky says, I've never been truly impressed by Ritchie before, but this one is actually an utterly fun treat. The style this film possesses is really enjoyable to watch. The pacing moves at lightning speed, the dialogue is quick, clever, and deeper than you first realise, and the conflict is always multi-layered. The story is told in a unique way, with a couple of characters recounting events that have already happened, and it works masterfully. This approach breaks the story up and gives room for creativity in the storytelling process and humour. The cast is admittedly fantastic, but that doesn't change the fact that they are also an absolute treat to watch. Matthew McConaughey is in his element in a role that he was born to play. Charlie Hunnam perfectly portrays one of the coolest characters I've ever seen. Colin Farrell is hilarious and ridiculously cool with no exception. And then Hugh Grant gives one of the best performances I've ever seen from him. In fact, Grant was really good. I didn't even recognise his voice and wondered if they dubbed it, but they hadn't. He just nailed it. All in all, love it, dig it, admire it. This is my favourite Ritchie film so far.
And that wasn't me, by the way.
Yeah, interesting. We're somewhere in between the two of them. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I do. I think everyone gets to do what they want to do in this film.
Yeah.
And that, and I don't think there's any really bad performances, and that. I think McConaughey, to a certain degree, yeah, I think this is a role. With Ritchie, quite often when he writes stuff with someone in mind. And I think it feels like he wrote this for Matthew McConaughey, and I think he fits the role really well. The fact that he's that softer spoken at times until you put the nest.
We've seen him do that before, and he does it well. Yeah.
So again, I think because there's so many good performances in this, Matthew McConaughey doesn't shine as such, but he shines in the scenes that he's in. But because there's so many, it's like I'd say, Hugh Grant is fantastic throughout the film.
Yeah,
and Charlie Hunnam again. He, if anything, it's more his film than anyone else. He's probably on screen more than anybody else throughout the film.
Agreed. Yeah,
and that, but yeah. You get these other people that just come in just to push the story on enough, add a bit of star power at times, and then kind of, leave it for the other ones to do.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Go on then, surprise us. Classic, worth catching, or completist only?
Well, I mean, it could be a completist only, but no, it's worth catching for me. I just
a worth catching McConaughey performance in, for you, a classic movie.
Yes, yeah,
fair.
Because I love the film, but I think McConaughey he's good in what he does, but he's not in it as much as like. I think
if this was Hugh Grant, this would be a classic, right?
Yeah,
or Colin
possibly. Yeah, I think they may outshine him throughout the film. It's like, but I also, I've watched Interstellar now, and now I fully understand why that's probably one of his greatest films that he's done. And because you buy into that character, you love that character, and what have you. This he's good, but it to be fair, he's like a side character in a way. So I think it's although I really do love the film, and that. I don't think it's a classic film for him. I think it's worth catching, but I don't think it's a classic film if you're just going on Matthew McConaughey. As in a film itself, I think it's a classic for me, but if you're just looking at... There's better McConaughey films out there.
Yeah, totally fair. All right, let's talk about you. This isn't going to be out for a while. We're recording well early. This is not going to be out until the end of August. So can you look into your crystal ball future? Can you use your Jedi powers to look into a possible pathway that you may be going? What will people be listening to on Star Wars? Oh, it's not. I was going to say Star Wars Comics and Canon. That is not the right name anymore. Star Wars Chit-Chat. What's going on?
Star Wars Chit-Chat. by this point, I mean, we did just actually record something on Monday night, and we did the Mandalorian and Grogu. We're going to be doing Solo. I think Mike is going to get us to rewatch Acolyte before we then tackle the Bad Batch, which that'll be fun. The Acolyte, it's one of those. I mean, I haven't watched Solo in a long time, so sometimes when you kind of go back and watch things, they're a lot better than what there was at the time. So definitely, I'm pretty sure Solo will have probably come out by then. I'm sure we'll have recorded that,
right?
And then we'll see from there. Pop Guerrillas. It's I. This is how far back we are, but I did Sheep Detectives, which if you've got kids, definitely watch it. Be prepared for some interesting conversations you might have. But I think it's a brilliant film, and I really enjoyed it, and George really enjoyed it, and we had some quite nice conversations on the way home after watching it. We're just saying there's He-Man coming out, so I'll be probably doing some of that. Spider-Man will be coming out in the future, so there'll be plenty of stuff on Pop Guerrillas by the time this comes out. So, give us a listen.
Yeah, lots to look forward to.
A meeting of minds, of subjective opinions and preferences. Maff always gives me a good chess match, so my thanks to him for his opinions and positive passion. Of course, I extend my thanks to you too, listeners, for your continued support, engagement, and participation as we journey through the McConaissance. That was The Gentleman. Next up in a fortnight, I'm going to be joined by Blake Biles to discuss Eminem's animated return as Buster Moon in Garth Jennings and Christopher Laudette's Sing 2, for those that are watching along. Until next time, be excellent to each other, and make sure you take the time to treat yourself too. I am Jack signing off. Yippee-ki-yay, movie lovers!
You just gotta keep living, man. Livin.
Cut.